Welcome, everybody. This is going to be our first coaches interview as a part of our new Time to Sign Connect. Today we have TJ Kassner with us. TJ is a coach at Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, a part of the Patriot League. So, TJ, thank you for being on with us today.
Yeah, absolutely, Mac. Thanks for having me, brother.
Yeah. So, to get started, can you kind of just tell us about yourself? Tell us about your coaching career, playing career. Like, how did you end up here at Lehigh?
Yeah, absolutely. So I played at an NAIA in Texas for 2 years, then played at a Division II school in Oklahoma for another 2 years. Once I finished up with my playing career, I began my coaching career as a student assistant at Our Lady of the Lake University, which was the NAIA that I finished up with in Texas. After that, I was there for 2 years. In my second year, I also played some independent ball in the fall and then came back in the spring for that. And then realized that I didn't want to play anymore. I was ready to start my coaching career. So I moved up to Pennsylvania to get my master's degree. Also did a graduate assistantship with DeSales University. So while coaching, I was also able to get my master's. Did that in 2 years, finished up, and then now we're here at Lehigh, which kind of worked out pretty good for me because our assistant coach at DeSales, his son was the volley at Lehigh before me, and he ended up leaving, and so that's kind of how I ended up into the third spot, the third assistant spot. And then over the fall, our hitting coach actually left to go and coach at his alma mater. And then after some of the interview processes going on, I was named the hitting coach at the end of the fall. So now we're here.
Awesome, awesome. So, something we like to talk about is like for you is at Lehigh University, what type of player, when you go to a game, like what are the type of players that fit your mold? Like what are you guys looking for?
Man, not to be cliche or anything, but just a good baseball player. We're looking for somebody that, has a feel for the game, looks the part. We like to have some high character kids at Lehigh just because if you're not a high character kid, it's going to be tough to succeed at Lehigh. So we're looking for people that are uh, taking care of themselves on the field the right way, portraying themselves on the field the right way, and just being a good teammate, good baseball player, hustling around, not slacking off, those types of things.
Yeah. So, and especially too, you guys being in the Patriot League, some high level, academics. What type of standards are you guys looking for when, at potential athletes in the classroom?
Yeah, so Lehigh is tough to get into, man. Like, one of the first things or the first topics that come up with us in our recruiting conversations is always, hey, we need a transcript. Get the transcript over as soon as possible for us, and then we'll send that over to our academic advisors and our, the people that are helping us get kids in. And then as soon as they get the transcript, they let us know whether or not the kid is going to be a potential fit. If they are going to be a potential fit, then we kind of move forward in the recruiting process with them. And then if a kid's just not cutting it in the class, we have to be honest with them and tell them like, hey, look, like Lehigh's a pretty prestigious academic school, and it's just not going to be a fit. And then we're as truthful and as transparent as possible, and then we just move on from that.
Perfect. Perfect. So we're in today's world of recruiting, there's a lot more emails and videos that are being sent out. That's, not as normal as even when both of us were being recruited, not too long ago. But when you guys are receiving emails and getting initial, communication, what's some things that you look for that helps stand out amongst all the emails you're probably receiving?
And to be honest with you, I'm trying to find something that's short and to the point, that's drafted well, that doesn't have any misspelled words, doesn't have, hi coach and then sends it. It has like a little personality to it where it says Coach TJ or Coach Leary, Coach Knight, not just like an automated email. And then, from there, usually the long ones, like I'll skim over real quick, but throughout the day, there's not enough time to read 30 emails that are a book long. So I skim over it and I go straight to the video. And then honestly, just kids that, can play stand out. If they stand out in a good way, if they fit our recruiting needs at the time, we reach back out. If they don't, fit our needs at the recruiting time or like what we're looking for, we'll send them an email back as well saying, hey, look, at this time, it's not a fit for us, but just keep us along in the process. If anything opens up, then let's get back in touch with one another. But we try to be as transparent as possible with every recruit that we have, whether it's, hey, let's move along with this recruiting process, whether it's, hey, let's just, keep in touch and we'll follow up with you, or whether it's just, hey, look, it's not going to work from our end. So.
Perfect. So it kind of leads me to my next thing is you guys mentioned like what, what needs you have for your next couple classes. So if you don't mind me asking, like in your 25 and your 26 classes, like what are you guys looking for what positions are you looking to fill as of right now?
Yeah, so the 25 class, obviously the main one is being pitchers. Every class is always going to need some pitchers. But we're actually taking a smaller group in the 25. The 24 class that we have 13 incoming athletes, and then the 25 class right now we have three committed so far, and we're hoping to kind of round that off at like six or eight, just
Okay.
with scholarships and budgeting. It's going to be a little bit of a smaller class. So in that one, we're trying to find some frontline arms. We are going to take a catcher. We're actively seeking a catcher right now.
Okay.
And then just probably one outfielder, one infielder. But for the most part, it's going to mainly be some frontline arms for us.
Okay. So when you guys, and now it's following up the email question, like metrics are such a,
Hmm.
big thing with kids today. When you guys are looking at a potential recruit, how much do you put for metrics and then on field stuff? Like what's the mix you guys are looking for with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It it kind of varies. Coach Knight and Coach Leary do a really good job of projecting kids. In the 24 class, whenever I first got to Lehigh, I was able to kind of like see where some of those kids were starting off at. And it just like slowly kept up from guys being 82, 85 to 85, 87. And then now we're having a few guys that are 88 to 90 in some of their bullpens. And so it's hard to say of an exact number that we're looking for. I would say we're more so looking for actions, whether it be on the mound with arm speed, how they're moving, if they're an efficient mover. With hitters, we're trying to see is the ball coming off of the bat? Does he move well in the box? Is he balanced? I would say it's more action based. Obviously, if a kid, if a 25 recruit is throwing 90, 92, I'd say he's probably pretty good. So obviously, if the numbers jump out, then anybody in the country is going to take them. But for our end, we're trying to find one the right fit kid, and a lot of times it's going to come from trying to project some kids.
Okay. So leading off of that question is like, do you guys have a certain timeline that you use for, obviously it's different per age group, but what kind of timeline are you using for, let's say like the 25 class? If you go to a game, you see a kid that you like what are your next steps at Lehigh?
Yeah, so like right now in the present moment, if we see a 25 kid that we like, we're gonna call them and try to move along with that process as best as possible. Um, you know, in the 26 class, you have to wait till August 1st. So usually like we're trying to get it done within that first year of being able to talk to them. So the 24 class we rounded up in this past summer with our last recruit. And then I would assume so again with this being my first year, I would assume that we would finish with the 25 class in kind of that same timeline um, of this summer. And then the 26 class, we would try to finish that up from August 1st of this summer to next summer as well.
Perfect. So that leads me into talking about summer ball a little bit, like how important it is for you, like if you do have an organization like Time to Sign where you have a
Mhm.
good relationship with Bird, Sarkis, and I, like how does that help a kid when they have those type of personnel in their corner?
I mean, it's basically a foot in the door for them already. Like they have, a trustworthy, source that they could or that coaches can rely on and myself can rely on. Um, so just right off the bat, it's you get a name, you get, a a credible source, and it gets you on the radar before anybody else, just because you have that personal relationship with the summer ball coach. And that's kind of where we tend to, and it can also go the other way, right? Like if you're not a credible source, then it kind of hurts you. But like, in our relationship, right? Like you send us a kid, and most of the time it's going to end up working out for us. So, um, you know, the easy answer is just it gets you in the door a lot faster than not having that relationship.
Yeah. So, I was going to ask you, like, if you could give some advice to a kid. I know you've mentioned a lot of things that are, outside of the box score, like we talk about. Like, what's some advice that you would give a high school kid that's, getting into that recruiting process right now?
Do your research on where you're going to play summer ball at. Like again, that's I'd be willing to bet that that's going to be the more valuable option as far as getting seen by college coaches, just because it's hard to get out to a high school game in season, and you know especially at the Division 1 level, you're practicing every day, you're playing Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Your off days are travel days. Like there's just a lot going on, and so trying to get out to a high school game, it's tough. So the first thing I would say is do your research on where you're going to play and who you're going to play with over the summer. Talk to them about who they know, where their players have committed to. Um, and then from there, just make sure you're constantly putting in as much effort into your craft, into your skills, and then just building up your strengths. And then when you go and play at some of these places, don't make it bigger than what it is. Just go and play baseball. It's very easy for a lot of kids to you know really worry about getting signed and or getting or committing that they just don't play very well. So um, my next I guess piece of advice would just be to go play and trust that the research that you did with your travel organization is good enough that if you just go and play, they're going to get you scholarship or a walk on spot to a school.
You see, a big thing we do here with Time to Sign is we try to get out, we try to present to all of our athletes camp dates and stuff. And like for you guys at Lehigh, if you see potential, kids that send you emails or potential kids you like how important is it for them to come to one of your on campus camps?
It's huge. It's the best way. It's the easiest way to get in front of the entire coaching staff. It's the easiest way to get to interact with some of our current players that are there right now, and it's kind of where you're going to get, um, the 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 real feel, I guess, of what it would be like if you're going to be a student athlete there, because the players aren't going to lie to you. They're going to kind of tell you what their experience is, how it's been for them, and they're just an open book. And we don't coach our players on how to talk about the school. It's whatever their um, whatever their reality is. That's what you're going to hear.
Yeah. So I guess that leads to me now is like, you guys know as of right now, like what kind of camp dates you're going to have this summer and then into the fall?
Yes. So we have two summer team camps. We have two prospect camps, and then we have a fall team camp and a fall prospect camp, along with a winter prospect camp. Those dates I don't have off the top of my head. I can give them to you, and then you can post them on the website just for anybody that wants them. But yeah, we usually do a few over the summer and a couple over the fall, and then one in the winter.
Yeah. So for camps, for a lot of guys, I mean, it's kind of a new experience for them sometimes. Like, what are some things, not necessarily the metrics are the end all be all, but what are some metrics types of things that you're looking for? We'll say like on the position side.
Yeah, so positionally, 60-yard dash is kind of a lost art at this point. So like, like if you can run, you're automatically going to stand out right away. And then in the infield, or I guess just defensively, just very action based. You know, you feel cleanly, good feet, good hands, um, loose arm, and then the numbers are going to speak for themselves. Depending on if you're me personally, I would like to have somebody that's in the mid 80s to high 80s across the diamond, high 80s, low 90s in the outfield. Behind the plate, I would like a 2-0 for pop time, but to, to me, a lot of people put an emphasis like the way that the pop time is created was from catch to catch on the other side, but it's more so of like catch to tag. So how accurate can you be behind the plate? That goes. It's not a metric, but that's something that definitely stands out to me in my eyes is how accurate is a guy on his 3 or 4 throws or whatever however many he has. And then in the box, it's are you an efficient mover? Are you balanced in your swing? Are you able to stay through the middle of the field? And then the last thing would just be, does the ball come off the bat? And that's the most important part. But if you don't move well, then it's kind of hard to have that last part. So that's why I say those in that order.
Yeah, so it's kind of something we talk about with a lot of our guys is you kind of see them, they get into a camp atmosphere and they all of a sudden when BP starts, it's like, let's see how many home runs we can hit. But in reality, talking to a lot of you college coaches, it's, can they hit the ball in the middle? Is that because they're playing to who they are, what they are? So when
Yeah,
you watch BP, like talk about like the type of hitter and like what you're looking for obviously different positions, I guess.
yeah. I mean, if you're a guy that can go out and hit a ball out on command, and by all means, go and hit 6 of your 8 swings and just crush them out of the pull side or wherever it is that you got to put a ball out. A ball over the fence is a ball over the fence wherever it goes. So obviously that's going to be a pretty impressive round. But if you're not that guy, don't try to be that guy, right? Like try to just be who you are and be that well. That was something that I learned from this, or a line that I learned from DeSales, and I think it's so true. Just be who you are and be that well. And um, you know, there's a school out there for everybody, and so wherever your fit is, that's going to be your fit. And if you're trying to do more than what you can, a lot of times it doesn't work out in your favor. So the biggest thing is just being yourself.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point you make is like you talked about earlier, like doing your research because every program has certain types of players that fit their mold. And that's something that kids, they need somebody in their corner to explain that to them. Like, hey, you don't necessarily need to go to this school because they're looking for this type of player. But
Yeah.
now you look at a place like Lehigh, they fit perfect with your mold. So when you guys are recruiting, I guess now we'll look more at like the pitching side. Like, what's some things that's going to help stand out for those guys? I guess like in a game style and even more like a camp style too.
So game style, I think it's more so of how you're competing in the game. And then for me, the biggest thing is, do you throw strikes? Like, there's a lot of throwers nowadays, but there's not very many pitchers anymore. Which, when you're at the college level, everybody can throw pretty hard, especially at the Division 1 level. Now it's, can you get outs? And so one of those things that we always talk about in our office is, okay, can he get outs here today? So, in our recruiting class, when we're talking about the pitching side of things, one of the first questions that'll come up is, okay, like you like him? Could he get outs here today? And if it's a yes, then we start moving along in that process rather quickly. If it's a well, maybe not, he'll compete a little bit, then it's, hey, let's keep in touch, let's follow up. Uh, and so like that's generally kind of the consensus of what we're looking for in pitchers.
Yeah, I mean you make great points, and that's something we try to tell some of our pitchers is like at the end of the day, um, guys are looking for you to be able to throw hard. I mean that's one thing, but they're looking for guys that they can put out there on the mound and trust that this guy's going to pound the strike zone and compete, and he's not going to fold because especially nowadays in this type of college baseball that's so transfer portal, heavy with older guys because you're playing against older guys like freshmen are going to have to be able to show that toughness and competitiveness and get in the game and throw strikes, because
Yeah.
that's going to kind of be where you kind of lose that confidence in the coaches, where if they put you out there and they see you can't handle it, you're going to go sit down. And that's just kind of, that's what it is. And that doesn't matter if you're Division 1, Division 2, 3, or JUCO, NAIA. It's just,
Yeah,
you're going to have
absolutely.
to be able to, they're going to have to know that they can trust you, and they write your name down and put you out there. So,
Yeah.
kind of getting away now from recruiting, let's kind of talk about more of like now I'm a Lehigh baseball player. What's a typical kind of day look like for me, like in the fall?
Yeah, so the fall you'll go to class from, 8 or 9 till about 4 o'clock. All of our classes usually, about 80% of our classes finish up around 4 o'clock, 4:15. Some of our seniors are in classes that'll go at like 6 o'clock, but it's very rare. Like that's on a Wednesday, and so other than Wednesdays, we have like our everybody's done by 4. So we'll start practice at 4:30, and we don't start practice until everybody shows up, just to where our first years don't feel like they have to rush over or leave class early or miss a class just so they're not missing out on practice. Uh, so we'll start our practice at 4:30, um, and then we'll practice for an hour and a half, 2 hours. We're very quick, very efficient with our time, and then you know, once we finish with practice, guys go back to the other side of campus, and then they're done for the day. We'll lift 3 times a week during the fall, and then there's portions or phases of the fall where we will lift twice a week. For the most part, it's 3 times a week. We'll have, I believe it's I believe it's 6 weeks of fall practice, and then after we're done with those 6 weeks, we jump into our individual phases of practice that, uh, are we go 3 times a week with you're allowed 40 minutes with each individual player. Um, from September till the end of November, you're doing baseball, and so your school from 8 or 9 till 4. You have your baseball practice twice a week. We scrimmage on the weekends, um, and then we will lift Monday, Tuesday, and either Thursday, or just that third day is kind of just dependent on practice schedules and stuff like that. We try to do our best to manage workloads for the guys, just because Lehigh is a very strenuous academic school, and so you know as much as we would like to get baseball in, there's also books here, and so we like to give our guys as much time as possible to work on their academics and not tiring them out mentally. So
Yeah, and then kind of you mentioned the weight room, and a lot of that's a big step for a lot of guys. I mean, everything's a big step when you get to college, but you get into the weight room with some older grown guys. Like, how important is the weight room for recruits?
yeah, it's huge. It's everything. Our strength coach Owen, it does a fantastic job with our athletes. Whether it's creating a flex lift for them just to get in on their own if they have class and can't make it, or if they're trying to recover from one of their throwing days, and they just need to get in on their own and they can't make it with the team, or if something comes up. He just does an amazing job with our athletes, and they're strong. Like we have some strong boys, and just hearing some of the stories of them coming in from their first years to where they are now as juniors and seniors, uh, I would have never thought that those guys would be 50 pounds less than what they are, and couldn't do a pull up when they got in here, and now some of them are deadlifting 400 or 500 pounds, benching 300 plus, just crazy numbers. So obviously, as a recruit, if I'm coming in, I want to be familiar with the weight room. But if it's something that's foreign to you, we have a very, very good um, strength coach that gets you up to speed pretty quickly, and works with you throughout it. So he's awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, it sounds like a big thing is, getting in that weight room as early as you can as a high school kid, you know, to ease the process from high school to college, because like you said, you are going in there with you know, some guys that can throw around some weight. So that's
Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's who you're competing with for those starting jobs and that playing time.
Yep.
So, but yeah, so we'll wrap this up, and so we have a couple of camps coming up in this summer up north, and I know we would love to have Lehigh University be there and have you out there, TJ, to watch some potential time to sign guys and some outside kids. But we look forward to seeing you at some of the games this summer and getting some
Yes,
guys
sir.
to Lehigh.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
All right, well, thank you, TJ, for your time, and good luck the rest of the season.
Thanks, Mac. I appreciate it, brother.